Hello Sioux Falls, welcome to Planning Preview for the month of August 2021. This month's meeting is going to take place on August 4th at 6 p.m. at the Carnegie Town Hall in downtown Sioux Falls. As always, we strongly encourage members of the public to come down to speak on agenda items that we'll go through today and non-agenda items. Non-agenda items are anything that you'd like to talk to the Planning Commission about related to planning and zoning in Sioux Falls. So as always, please come down and give us your public input. For the first part of today's program, I've got Albert Schmidt with the City of Sioux Falls with us. Hi Albert, how are you today?
Doing well, how are you today?
Good, we're right in the thick of summer here now. Tell me, how are things progressing down at the planning department?
Man, pretty well. Still fairly regular hitting with applications coming in for different things. This time of year, it's always the same story where I have an idea, we need to get this going, and we got to get it going right away. Yeah. So it's definitely that kind of, even though it's kind of midsummer, it's the last minute push to get permits, applications through before the end of the year. Sure. So it's a busy time for that side of things.
It goes fast. You get halfway through and there's only so many months left in the year, so I'm sure you guys are busy working along. But let's go ahead and dive right into our agenda, and we'll go through some of these items and talk about what's going on in Sioux Falls. First on our list is a planned unit initial development plan amendment, and that's at 1305 West 18th Street. So this looks like the main Sanford campus. Tell us what they're doing here.
So we're coming back again to do some minor amendments to this. So the PUD campus touches base on parking regulations, building locations, building size, building height. This main application here is to amend about 3 different locations on the campus to increase the height up to about 125 feet. And that's really the main camp, just kind of preparing for future development going on there. This may not happen this year or next year, but just kind of getting things prepped so that when they're ready to go, they have less hurdles and they can come in and apply.
Very good. And our Planning Commission sees amendments to PUDs fairly often, but I imagine the viewers might not know what a planned unit development is. Can you kind of tell them what that is and how that works? So
for us, a planned unit development is a specific area we rezone together to kind of work together so that they can share different resources, such as with a hospital parking, so you can park on one side, walk to the other side, so you don't have to account for parking on every single aspect of that area, but rather you can reduce the total number of parking that we have on a site, so we don't have just a sea of asphalt. We try to really make it most efficient as possible. In addition, with PUDs, we try to really encourage pedestrian pathways as well. So Sanford and Avera both do a really good job of providing pedestrian pathways, both on the sidewalks outside, but also through their interior skywalk system. So it's a great example of that side of things. In addition, the PUDs help us to do kind of a unification of planning, if you will, kind of help bring together plans to say, here's what this is generally going to look like as a whole. We're going to identify setbacks, we're going to identify heights, and so that you can kind of plan on everything at once a little bit better than coming in each piecemealing it through, because sometimes with these larger scale areas like campuses like Augie, USF,
Lake Lorraine,
or Sanford, Lake Lorraine. There's areas of that campus that are different from other areas, but they can intermix with each other. And so it's good to be able to work that together and say, all right, well, this part here, we're going to allow for this, but then once we get further away, close to the single family, we're going to really try to shift back into that standard procedure, standard distances to help protect those.
Sure. So it can really create a cohesive development in certain areas.
Absolutely.
Next on our list is a rezone. It's going from recreation and single family over to just single family residential. That's at 85th and east of South Pinewood Avenue. So south side of town, kind of in between Western and Minnesota there. Yeah. Tell us about what they're doing there.
Yeah, so the south side Walmart, basically like 4 blocks to the west of that.
Okay.
Well, this location originally had planned some sort of housing development. It was going to be some executive housing. That plan hasn't really worked out real well right now, so they're just kind of rezoning the remaining piece that was a little rec area where they're going to have a pool before, and now making it RS to match, and then they're going to go out and figure out a use inside that RS zoning district. So it should match the existing neighborhood quite well. We don't expect any big issues with this side of things.
Okay, understood. Next on the list is a rezone from C2 Commercial to the Iowan Light Industrial District. This is located at West Madison Street and east of Ebenezer Avenue, so kind of by I-29 on Madison. Tell us about this project.
Yeah, so just south of the Southeast Technical kind of campus there. There's an area there where they're just kind of getting ready for development. There's an article recently about some storage units that's going to go in this area as well. So this is 2 lots. The main part of it's just getting ready for development and just kind of anticipating what kind of uses are going to be out there, and it's really just matching what's already developing out there.
Sure.
Then the other side of it that we have in there is just kind of correcting a rezone small item where there was a small portion of the lot that wasn't zoned the same as the rest of the lot, so just getting that uniform again for the storage building. So for us, pretty straightforward one, just to match what's already out there for the zoning and uses.
Okay, so a little bit of both, trying to line it up with maybe a correction, but also looking forward to the future and a new project as well.
Indeed.
So, very good. Next, we've got a conditional use permit for 3 digital billboards larger than 288 square feet. That's located north of East Arrowhead Parkway and east of South Veterans Parkway. So we're looking out on the east side of town with this one.
Yeah, very east over Arrowhead Parkway, kind of on the northeast corner there. For this one, we have the application came in, submitted for 3 different locations along that site, along both Arrowhead and Veterans Parkway. We're just evaluating the request based on traffic speeds and what we've seen along the corridor there. Most of the corridor along Arrowhead Parkway, almost all the billboards that we've looked at are about 288 square feet. So from a staff review, we're just looking at that, trying to balance out the request versus what's out there, and based on the traffic speeds, see what's the most appropriate.
Okay, understood. And I suppose because it's the same applicant and similar location, they can put them all on one agenda item. And
yeah, as long as it's on one parcel and it's along a district that allows for billboards, we can do one application for multiple spots.
Select, very nice. Next up on the list is a preliminary subdivision plan for Jefferson Heights, 2nd edition. That is south of West Maple Street and west of North Valley View Road. So we're up kind of by Jefferson High School, up in the northwest part of town again.
Yeah, so just south of the middle school in that area of town.
Okay.
Yeah, this area will be a development that's going to be an expansion of the development that's currently being graded today to the east, right along Marion Road. So this is an expansion of that single family development. I think it's their phases after those phases, and so it should fit right in really nicely with the existing amenities we have out there.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people are excited to see more single-family homes going up out there. There's such a demand with Foundation Park and everything else out there to get some more houses for people to live up there. Right?
Yeah, and from a planning perspective, both Jefferson Heights, the second one here, and the first one just to the east, both are a great opportunity for us in the planning side to really showcase how we can get a residential development along a kind of waterway, because there's a creek back there. Okay. And then we have a future bike trail plan to do some connectivity in there. So no plan on the timeline for that bike trail, but eventually with that built out, it should be a really nice connected residential development for people to drive out of there, but also walk on the bike trail, get on the bike trail, and have really good connectivity.
Yeah, and that's awesome to see, because so many of the neighborhoods that are built out have that, where they might have a creek or some nature way behind them and a bike trail. But in some of the newer neighborhoods, that's really hard to do. So if we're able to do that, that's a great sign.
Yeah, we're planning for it. We'll see. We've got to fund it now.
That's right. Another topic for another day, I'm sure. Next is on that same piece of property, but it's the rezone. So it's going from agricultural, and it's got a little bit of a mix, but we're going to single-family residential, twin homes, townhomes, as well as some conservation. Talk to us a little bit about the rezone.
And so, just kind of stepping back a little bit with this process, as the viewers may or may not know, the first step typically is annex the property in, and then when we annex that property in, we bring it in as whatever zoning it is in the county. So in this instance, it was agriculture, so we bring it as ag. Well, obviously, if you build houses on there, you need to rezone that so we can do more houses. Yep. So that's where the subdivision piece from the one before and this one we run concurrently, so that the Planning Commission and later City Council can get a full holistic view of what they're looking at doing, how the connections are going to be made. So this is a rezoning request here. They're looking at single-family houses, mainly on the south side, or right by the house, and then kind of as you get further down, denser, allowing the twin homes and town and duplexes and things like that going down there. So,
okay.
But all single-family versions of stuff, whether it's attached or detached.
Okay, very nice. Last one on the agenda for August is a rezone, and it's quite a mix here, so I'll try to hit on as many of them as I can, but it looks like we're really just kind of moving things around here. It's going from RS single family residential, there's live work, commercial, apartments, and some conservation, and we're kind of moving things and going into commercial, live work, residential townhomes, single family, and conservation as well. So that's up at 2301 North Marion Road. So up Marion and Maple, also kind of by Jefferson High School as well.
Right there, yeah. And so these ones, I always feel bad for the clerks when they have to read them out because it's just a ton of districts. So to simplify what's happening out here, they had an original plan. The street layout had to change because of the requirements for engineering, that side of things. And so they're just updating that based on the new layouts.
Sure.
And so there's really no changes as far as what's going to go out there. It's just moving them around a little bit and finalizing that.
Kind of make sure things are in compliance with standards and everything.
And this is that phase one, the one we talked about before. So it's just eventually there'll be some level of pedestrian connectivity to these other phases to the west.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just basically starting along Marion Road. And if you go out there today, they're grading, doing a lot of work. They've taken a lot of trees down in preparation for this. And so it's really coming along on site there. But this is the kind of the final step before they need to really get their final plats in and then start pulling building permits.
Okay, sure. Very nice. Well, stick around, everybody. Albert's going to stay for the second half of our show. We're going to talk about building permits so far in the year of 2021.
Hey, this is Seth with the City of Sioux Falls Housing Division. I'm here today with today's Home Maintenance Minute to talk to you about your air conditioner and how to take care of it. So one thing that I like to do once a year is to make sure, first and foremost, that your disconnect is turned off. All air conditioners should have a disconnect on the outside as well as on the panel. So you want to turn the breaker off at the panel, turn your disconnect off outside, and then you know there's no electricity in the unit. Okay, then if you look on the top, there's 4 bolts that hold this fan assembly on. If you take those bolts out, lift this assembly out and off and over to the side a little bit, just take a simple garden hose and go in around the fins on the inside of the unit and spray water from the inside out. And so if you look on the outside of an air conditioning unit, there are fins. It's much like a radiator in a car, and they get clogged. They get clogged with cottonwood, trees, debris, and leaves and dirt and dust. And simply going in from the inside and pushing that material out with water will clean that up, and it'll keep your air conditioner running much longer. Thanks for being with me today with today's Home Maintenance Minute.
Welcome back, Sioux Falls. Thanks for sticking with us after the break. I'm joined again by Albert Schmidt with the City of Sioux Falls. Thanks for sticking around, Albert.
My pleasure.
We get to do a fun topic this second half of the show here. One of my favorites, we get to talk about the permit data that we've rolled in through this year, and it's always fun when we get to see staggering numbers like we've had. And I think what's particularly unique about this year is some of the large projects that we've seen so far in the first half of the calendar, and it really is a testament to the investments that people are putting into our town right now. So let's go ahead and kind of talk about them. We've got a list here of some of the big ones that are larger than $3 million. So let's go ahead and start off with the first one, which is 5051 West Foundation Court. So up in Foundation Park.
Yeah, so just another really big expansion in the area, another warehouse project. I think it's around 100,000 square feet. So another large warehouse project going up there right just to the east of the Amazon facility by a couple lots. We anticipate seeing more of warehousing, manufacturing going up in there in the future here as well. Obviously with other things like CJ Foods announced, this is, just that side, they're finally at the building permit stage for this one. So yeah, just really taken off for the last few years up there, and it's just a ton of money and investment.
Yeah, and there's just an ongoing construction project up there, and I'm sure we'll see that for years to come now, and I think it's a real testament to the work that, the Development Foundation has done for so many years to get to this point. We're now seeing it, really, aren't we?
I'd agree.
Yeah. So let's stay up there. We're going to move right next door to 5050 West Foundation Court. This is a $24 million project, and it looks like an addition to wind chill.
Yeah, so I mean, just a great segue from your last comment of continued reinvestment out there. Windshield keeps on adding on, adding on. They fill up, they build more. They fill up, they build more. And so this is a great example of how that facility first started us off up there, and this is, I believe, their third edition or so up there. And so a significant financial investment continue to be remade and remade over there. So by the time they're done up there, they're going to have quite the large facility of cooler and air, controlled system area up there.
Yeah, that's. I haven't seen the inside, but I've heard it's pretty amazing. I mean, holding that many or that much frozen food and cold storage up there. What a phenomenal project. And this one's an interesting, we love seeing the wind chill guys add on, because normally you don't see that. It's expensive to always add on, and usually you see one big deal. And I think that really shows their commitment to Foundation Park to be able to say, hey, we're going to do this again and again.
I agree. And that shows too just how forward thinking they were when they bought that land, to buy enough land so that they can keep on adding on as the need came out there. And it's just, I think for us, it's been impressive to how fast that needs come up. When you think about expansion projects, you typically don't think, well, within 5 years, you're going to expand multiple times.
Sure.
You go, well, okay, maybe 10 years later, you're going to be needing an expansion for most places, right?
Yep.
But it's been impressive.
Amazing growth, without a doubt. Next up on the list is at 3601 East Sage Grass Street. This is 15 Point Capital. It's for the City Edge Apartments, $22,875,000 or so. Tell us about this permit.
Well, I can tell you this one, kind of generalizing a little bit here. We've seen just a continued investment in apartments, and there's been some articles out recently talking about just the vacancy rate being basically 0 or 1% in this town for apartments even. And so this is just another example of large-scale apartments going in to help try to fill that void, to help out with that. And when we see this stuff, this kind of development is just one of those ones where we see it. It's harder to do smaller projects because of material costs, land costs, and just having enough land to do that, especially when we also then come in and say, how are you impacting your neighbors? Let's do buffer yards. We kind of make some additional space needs take up so that we can try to do that buffering. And so this is the kind of more common thing we've been seeing is these larger scale apartments, maybe not to $26 million or $22.8 million scale on a normal basis, but still pretty normal basis. So these are larger complexes, getting higher number of units in there, more stories typically. And again, it's just to kind of balance those areas out and just fill that need. I mean, we're seeing a ton of these applications, both in the rezone side of things as they come in and they start planning for it, and then now on the building permit side. Yeah,
it's been amazing being on the Planning Commission to watch the market react. Those investors and developers are all seeing the same stories we are, and they're seeing the market and the demand that's there, and it follows with new projects, doesn't it?
It's been insane for my mind, and I use the word insane, but to think about how long this has been going on. We've been building apartments like crazy, it seems like, for 5 years. And most of the time when you look at the normal ebb and flow of this side of things, you kind of go apartments, then down, then up, and then as vice, on the other side of that, they're doing more homes than less homes. And so they're kind of here and there giving and taking. One's doing more, the other one's doing more. In this sense, it just seems like both are just kind of continuing going up right now. So.
Yep, you're exactly right. That it was the way it used to be. Like, for example, when Greystone was built, 300 some units. There may be a little bit of a lull, and somebody might say, I'm going to pause for just a little bit because we just put all those units in Sioux Falls. It's not the case anymore. They're just going as fast as they can because they know they need to.
They're getting rents they need, and the market's out there for them to fill those up. And a lot of the times when you talk to these people about this, they're getting pretty substantially filled before they're even complete. So people are already reserving these things. So it's a tough market to be a renter, to find a place to live, but a great opportunity. If you have the capital to build these facilities, it's a good time to get out there.
Sure. Let's go on to our next one. This is for Avera McKinnon, but it's the Avera Behavioral Health Edition. That's down on their South Campus at 4400 West 69th Street for $21,600,000. Looks like Journey Group Company is doing the work here. Tell us about what they've got going on.
So they came in a while ago and reworked their plan a little bit so they had enough parking on site, and we kind of talked about that. So we saw that earlier on for Planning Commission, and now the building permit project came through for this side of it. So what they're doing is adding another wing onto that building. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's a 4 or 5 story wing out there. And so if you drive on 229, you look south before Louis Avenue, you can see this bad boy going up. It's went up very quickly. I mean, they're already basically kind of getting it framed in, and all the steelwork's all completely done, and they're just getting it enclosed, it looks like. So there's glass going up already. I mean, so it's pretty far along. But again, you can see that permit was issued a few months ago already, but it's amazing how fast they work. And this project here is really to add more beds, and then they're also modernizing their kind of side of things with how they do this a little bit. And so when you look at what COVID's done for us, in a negative way, but also when you look at what we've taken lessons learned, this is one of the things I think where Avera has been able to look at that and go, what do we rethink a little bit? What do we really need in these facilities? And they're able to design that into this so that they can help modernize this kind of facility and use it going into the future.
Yeah, that's great to hear that Sioux Falls is getting something like that, a state-of-the-art facility. I think the reality is that we do need that in our society as well, and for them to be able to build a great facility dedicated to that, I think is great for our town as well.
Yeah.
So let's move into the next part here, Albert. Let's talk about our building permit data broadly so far this year, kind of in comparison to years past. And it's always fun to do this right now with COVID being, main driver in 2020 kind of statistics.
Yeah.
Really threw a wrench in a lot of things. And you're seeing this just phenomenal building permit data in 2021. So when you kind of look at things holistically, what stands out to you the most?
And for us, when we look at what we do building wise, I think it's important to note too, for 2020 was just an insane year, right?
Yeah.
Luckily for us in the City of Sioux Falls, we had started moving to a digital system to allow us for more ways and methods to collect information, get permits going, and get information out from and to applicants. And so in 2020, we were able to utilize that much quicker than some other communities out there. So when you compare back to our numbers, really, our 2020 numbers could have been much, much worse because some communities had to just kind of stop. I mean, they were done. Whereas we were able to turn on our online stuff more and increase that even more than we had at the time. And so when you look at our numbers here, I mean, we've just seemingly been nonstop. Typically, traditionally, you get to our winter time and we really kind of, not to a halt, but we get very comfortable. I mean, it's very manageable typically. But this year, you just did not see that.
Yeah.
The demand was pent up, materials were pent up. I mean, and so we haven't really had what we would consider a slower time. We're starting to get a little more caught up, but the second I say that, they're going to have a lot of stuff probably dropped on them. So it's really tough. This has been a unique 2 years where it just seemingly has just been nonstop for new projects wanting to come in, people coming in to talk to us about new projects and go, I have an idea, I want to do this. And so it's just never ending, it seems like, which is good. I mean, that's a positive thing for us to have, and we're happy to be dealing with it and taking it on and trying to make this community grow in a good and efficient way and make good projects become reality.
Sure. One of the lines that really stick out to me on this list, Albert, is commercial addition and remodel totals. You take a look at 19, 20, 21, and you go 95 million in 19, 59 million in 2020, and 2021, this first half of the year, we're at $120.5 million. So just an amazing amount of investment in the first half of this year, and it's kind of fascinating to think about those contracts being able to get those materials and supplies like you mentioned. We had a steel shortage, had a lumber shortage, and they still got $120.5 million for the first half of the year.
Oh man, I agree. When you look at these numbers, compare them, we have all this data always on our website. With this one we're specifically looking at today, 2019, 2020, 21, the one we're looking at is January through June. And so all those are those specific sections. So they're all equal parts, right?
Yep.
And you look at 2019, that was at the time a record year for us. 2020 then became a record year for us.
Yep.
And then you can see 2021 right now, if we are able to follow the same general pace, we're looking at a substantial year. And these additions and remodels are a big part of it. And they really increased quite a bit. And what you're seeing there is, A, we see an increase for demand and services. B, we need to modernize our facilities because we can't get workers, so we need to try to update those accordingly. Or C, it's just looking at, this is the time for us where we were able to slow down a little bit, and so now it's a good time to make investments during when it is a little slower for people physically coming in, so that hopefully when things open back up to a more full extent where people are less concerned about what could be out there and meeting in these places, that you're ready to hit at full speed too.
Okay.
So it's a mix of all three of those things, I think.
Yeah, very good. Let's talk about another line that is really striking to me on here. You look down at the new commercial and you see manufacturing there, and in 19, at this point there were 6.6 million. In 20 there was 7.5 million. Now in 2021 we've got $38.9 million in permits out there. That's amazing, to say the least. Total exponential growth. Is that coming from some of our bigger projects, I would imagine?
Yeah, there's been some good warehouse projects going on. What we're seeing from our side of things are people telling us that warehousing is really filling up, contractor shops, things like that. There's a need for them out there.
Yep.
Then other things like storage units, things like that. I mean, we've seen storage units being needed for a long time. It seems like that market just doesn't end.
Yep.
But yeah, this is really trying to catch up to a lot of that side of it. But the other side too is looking at where do we have the land for that I-1 to go. And I believe in my mind, when you look at what we've seen historically the past 3 years, we've seen more rezonings going to the I-1, I-2s more recently. And so we're opening up more industrial land than we probably have had in the past.
Okay.
And so it's kind of mixing those two together, just saying, hey, we have more land available now, so let's do that kind of use here. And also just kind of timing of that based on, again, very similar to the commercial side.
Okay.
Modernizing some of this stuff, adding new services into town. So like some of the other stuff you look at, when you have, like, I'll just, for example, you have an Amazon that comes in, there's also supporting services that come in with them. So not that this is a contributing factor to this in specific number, but when you have an Amazon facility for the actual warehouse come in, well, you also have now you're noticing probably more of the vans going around town. Well, they have a separate warehouse for those kind of vans where they're storing them, things like that.
Yep.
And then other delivery services are also expanding their services out, especially as we grow and become a larger urban area.
And those are real tangible things that happen when you do get a big project like that. They actually do happen. I know we hear about them, in some of the presentations, hey, this is our project, but then this will spin off into other things. And some people are skeptical of that, but you do have to look around, after those things are in process to see that, yes, these are real other projects that have come because of the big golden goose projects that we get as well.
It definitely does happen. It might not happen as quickly as some people think. This one's under construction, so other ones are going to start right away.
Yep.
But they generally will pull in because eventually they're going to use up any of the services that they would have available to them, and other services are going to have to fill the void of what can't be served.
Sure. I got to hit on one more number here, Albert, before we close out the show. Multiple family units. That's exactly what we were talking about earlier, and I just had to highlight it here. At this time, at the end of June, that is, 1,031 units so far this year. 2020 was 284 at this time, and 2019 338. So, easily more than double, more like triple the number.
Yeah, you look at those numbers, and we are putting out a lot of units in permitting, and so a lot of those units are going to come online later on here. Because if they're permitting them here in the 2021, nobody's living in those units yet. They're just not built yet, but they're going to be coming on closer at the end of the year, probably, or early next year. And so, that story right there just tells you how big of a demand in housing we have. And just shows you how they're trying to play that, catch up to that side of it. But again, like we talked about, it's, to me as an urban planner, looking at these numbers, and if you go through the full year records for 19 and 20, it's just been a significant amount of investment in multifamily, single family as well. But it's just hard to imagine that we were going to keep on that same track and grow at that same rate. This is just another example of trying to do that. And from a city perspective for us, again, we try to make those apartments blend in as best we can to the existing neighborhood so they don't get a negative effect in that area. But also for us, it's important to have a higher density inside the city so that we can service these areas with water, sewer, fire, police, health. And so the denser we have those areas, the easier it is to service those without expanding our footprint and expanding our cost. So from our side there's a positive to doing that, but also too, in theory, with these rentals, you should be hopefully seeing a mix of different market levels for those apartments so that people can find a place to live that they want to.
We need that. There's definitely a demand for high-end stuff, but then we also need that affordable stuff as well, because we know that is tough to find. So thanks for joining us for the whole show, Albert. We appreciate it. Thank you, Sioux Falls, for tuning in to Planning Preview for the month of August. A reminder, August 4th at 6 p.m. at Carnegie Town Hall is our Planning Commission meeting. We'd love to have you there. Thank you for watching.